What if I told you one listen could shift the way you feel instantly? Not tomorrow, not after months, right now. Because here's the truth. Most people ignore your mind is being programmed every single day by noise, stress, fear, and repetition. And you don't even realize it. That heavy feeling you carry, that overthinking loop, it didn't come from nowhere, it was built. But here's the exciting part. If your mind can be programmed negatively, it can be reprogrammed just as fast. In this video, you're not just listening, you're experiencing a shift, a reset, a quiet but powerful change happening inside you. Stay till the end, because something subtle but real is about to click. The moment you focus your attention, everything inside you begins to shift, and most people completely underestimate how fast this happens. Your mind is not slow. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't need time to warm up. It responds instantly. The second you place your awareness on something, your brain starts reorganizing itself around that focus. That's the power you've always had, but rarely used intentionally. Think about it. When you suddenly focus on something negative, a problem, a fear, a past mistake, your entire body reacts within seconds. Your mood drops. Your energy changes. Your thoughts begin to spiral. You don't need hours for that shift to happen. It's immediate. And that alone proves something powerful. Your focus controls your state in real time. Not later. Not eventually. Right now. But here's where most people go wrong. They let their focus be controlled by external noise. Social media, other people's opinions, stress, random thoughts, all of it pulls your attention in different directions. And when your focus is scattered, your mind becomes chaotic. You start feeling overwhelmed. Not because your life is out of control, but because your attention is. Now imagine flipping that. Instead of reacting, you choose. Instead of drifting, you direct. The moment you consciously decide to focus on something empowering, a calm breath, a positive outcome, a sense of control, your mind begins to align with it. It doesn't resist. It follows. That's how powerful focus is. It's not about forcing change. It's about directing attention. Here's the deeper truth. Your mind doesn't judge what you focus on, it amplifies it. Whatever you give attention to grows stronger in your awareness. If you focus on lack, you feel more lack. If you focus on possibility, you begin to see opportunities. It's not magic, it's conditioning. Your brain is constantly filtering reality based on where your attention goes. So when you change your focus, you literally change what you notice, what you feel, and how you respond. And this is why even a few seconds of intentional focus can create a shift. You don't need an hour. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need awareness. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a slow breath. Focus on something simple, peace, control, clarity. Notice what happens. Your body softens. Your thoughts slow down. Something inside you stabilizes. That's not coincidence. That's your mind responding exactly the way it was designed to. The problem is not that people can't focus, it's that they've never trained it. Just like a muscle, your attention gets stronger the more you use it intentionally. At first, it feels difficult. Your mind wanders, you get distracted, but over time, you build control. And once you have that control, everything changes. Because now, instead of being pulled by every thought, you decide where your energy goes. And here's the most powerful part. When you repeatedly focus on the same empowering idea or feeling, it starts becoming automatic. What once required effort becomes natural. Your default state begins to shift. You don't have to fight negativity as much because your mind is already trained to move in a different direction. So understand this clearly. You are always focusing on something. The only question is, are you choosing it or is it choosing you? Because the moment you take control of your focus, you take control of your experience, and that shift can happen faster than you ever imagined. Most people try to change their life by changing their thoughts, but they struggle, they overthink, they force it, and nothing really shifts. Why? Because they're working at the wrong level. Thoughts are slow, feelings are fast, and your mind doesn't truly respond to what you say. It responds to what you feel. Think about it. You can repeat a positive sentence in your head 100 times. I'm confident, I'm successful, I'm calm. But if deep down you feel anxious or doubtful, that feeling wins every time. Because feelings carry intensity. They carry certainty. They send a stronger signal to your brain than words ever can. That's why one moment of real emotion can override hours of forced thinking. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. Your brain is constantly scanning your emotional state to decide what is real. It doesn't just listen to your thoughts like instructions. It reads your feelings like evidence. So when you feel something deeply, your brain accepts it as truth, even if it doesn't logically make sense. That's why fear feels so real, even when nothing is actually wrong. And it's also why peace, confidence, or clarity can feel real, even before anything changes externally. This is where the shift becomes powerful. Instead of trying to control every thought, which is exhausting, you start stepping into a feeling, even briefly, even imperfectly. Because the moment you feel something different, your entire internal state begins to change. Your breathing adjusts, your body relaxes, your thoughts start aligning with that emotion instead of fighting it. For example, imagine you're overwhelmed. Your mind is racing, jumping from one problem to another. If you try to think your way out, you'll likely get stuck. But if you pause, take a slow breath, and allow yourself to feel just a hint of calm, even for a few seconds, everything begins to shift. The thoughts lose their intensity. The noise reduces. Not because you solve the problem, but because you change the feeling. And here's the deeper truth. Feelings don't need permission from logic. You don't have to wait for your life to be perfect to feel better. You can access a different emotional state right now by choosing it, even if it feels small at first. That's the secret most people miss. They think, I'll feel good when things get better. But it actually works the other way around. You start to feel better, and then things begin to shift. Your brain is wired to follow emotion. When you feel confident, your mind starts generating thoughts that support confidence. When you feel calm, your thoughts slow down naturally. When you feel in control, your actions become more intentional. It's not forced, it flows. That's why feelings are so powerful. They set the direction, and your thoughts follow. And just like focus, feelings can be trained. At first, it might feel unnatural to choose a better emotion when everything around you feels heavy. But the more you practice, the easier it becomes. You begin to recognize that your emotional state is not something that just happens to you, it's something you can influence. Not perfectly, not instantly every time, but enough to create real change. So stop fighting your thoughts so much. Stop trying to control every idea that enters your mind. Instead, shift your attention to how you feel. Even a small emotional adjustment can create a ripple effect through your entire system. Because once the feeling changes, everything else starts to follow. What you repeat, you become. It's that simple and that powerful. Most people think their reality is shaped by big moments, major decisions, or rare opportunities. But the truth is far quieter and far more consistent. Your life is being built every single day by what you repeat in your mind. The same thoughts, the same reactions, the same inner conversations, over and over again, until they feel real. Your brain is designed to learn through repetition. It doesn't need something to be true, it just needs it to be repeated. That's how habits form. That's how beliefs stick. And that's how your current reality has been shaped without you even realizing it. If you've been telling yourself, this is hard, I'm not ready, or things never work out for me, those weren't just random thoughts. They became patterns. And those patterns started influencing how you see the world, how you feel, and how you act. Think about it. When you hear something once, it might catch your attention. But when you hear it again and again, it starts to feel familiar. And what feels familiar begins to feel true. That's the hidden mechanism behind repetition. It turns ideas into beliefs and beliefs into experiences. So if your current reality feels stuck, repetitive, or predictable, it's not because you're incapable of change. It's because you've been repeating the same mental patterns long enough for them to solidify. But here's where it gets powerful. If repetition created your current state, it can also create a new one. The same system that locked you into certain beliefs can free you from them. You don't need a completely new mind. You just need new patterns, new thoughts, new emotional responses, repeated consistently. At first, it might feel unfamiliar, maybe even fake, but that's only because your brain hasn't been exposed to it enough yet. This is why most people give up too early. They try something new for a day or two, don't see immediate results, and assume it's not working. But they forget they've spent years repeating the old patterns. You can't expect a lifetime of conditioning to disappear overnight. Change doesn't happen because you try once. It happens because you repeat something new long enough for it to stick. And the shift doesn't have to be massive. It can start small. A new sentence you tell yourself. A different way of reacting. A moment where you pause instead of overthinking. These small changes, when repeated daily, begin to rewire how your mind operates. Over time, what once felt unnatural becomes automatic, and what used to control you loses its grip. Your brain is always listening, always recording, always adapting. It doesn't take breaks. So every time you repeat a thought, you're either reinforcing an old pattern or creating a new one. There's no neutral. That's why awareness matters. Because once you become conscious of what you're repeating, you gain the power to change it. Imagine repeating a new belief every day, not just in words, but with attention and feeling. Something simple like, things are working out for me, or I can handle this. At first it might feel weak, but with repetition, it gains strength. It starts influencing your perspective. You begin to notice small wins. You react differently. And slowly, your external reality starts reflecting that internal shift. So understand this clearly, your life is not just happening to you. It's being shaped by what you consistently repeat. The patterns you reinforce today become the reality you live tomorrow. And the moment you change what you repeat, you begin changing everything. Even when you think nothing is happening, something is always being recorded. Beneath your awareness, beyond your conscious thinking, your subconscious mind is constantly listening, absorbing, and storing everything you experience. It doesn't take breaks. It doesn't switch off. It's always active, quietly shaping your beliefs, your reactions, and ultimately your reality. Most people only pay attention to their conscious thoughts, the words they say in their head, the decisions they make, the things they try to control. But that's only a small part of the picture. The real driver of your behavior, your habits, and your emotional patterns lives deeper in your subconscious. And the most important thing to understand is this. Your subconscious doesn't judge, question, or filter information the way your conscious mind does. It simply accepts, especially when you're not fully paying attention. Think about how many thoughts pass through your mind in a single day. Thousands. And most of them are repetitive, automatic, and unnoticed. Every time you say something to yourself, I'm tired, this is too much, I can't do this, your subconscious hears it, not as a casual comment, but as a command. And over time, those repeated messages start forming beliefs. Not because they're true, but because they've been heard so often. This is why your environment matters more than you think. The content you consume, the conversations you engage in, the words you listen to, your subconscious is picking up on all of it. Even when you're distracted. Even when you think you're not paying attention, it's always listening in the background, collecting data, building patterns, and shaping how you respond to life. And here's where it becomes powerful. Your subconscious is most open when you are relaxed. When you're calm, when your guard is down, when you're not overthinking, that's when it absorbs information the fastest. Moments before sleep, early in the morning, times when your mind is quiet. In those states, what you hear and feel goes deeper. It bypasses resistance and lands directly in your subconscious programming. That means something important is happening right now. As you listen, as you stay present, as you allow these ideas to settle without forcing them, your subconscious is taking it in. It's not analyzing every word, it's sensing the meaning, the emotion, the pattern, and that's how change begins, not through force, but through subtle, repeated exposure. The challenge is, most people have been unknowingly feeding their subconscious negative patterns for years. Stress, fear, doubt, self-criticism, these have been repeated so often that they've become automatic responses. You don't even think about them anymore. They just happen. That's the power of subconscious conditioning. But it also means something else. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. You don't need to fight your mind. You don't need to force massive change overnight. You just need to become more intentional about what you allow in, the words you listen to, the thoughts you repeat, the feelings you entertain. Because every one of those becomes input for your subconscious. And over time, that input becomes your default way of thinking and feeling. Start small. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. Notice what you're exposing yourself to daily, and begin to introduce new, empowering messages consistently, calmly, without pressure. At first, it might not feel like much is changing, but beneath the surface, something is shifting. New patterns are forming. New beliefs are taking root. So remember this, your subconscious is always listening. The question is not if it's being influenced, but by what. And the moment you take control of that input, you begin to take control of your inner world. And once your inner world shifts, everything else starts to follow. Most people are waiting for a big moment to change their life. A breakthrough, a sudden transformation, something dramatic that flips everything overnight. But that's not how real change works. Real change is quiet. It's subtle. It starts with something so small, most people ignore it. A slight shift in thinking, a tiny change in reaction, a different way of seeing the same situation. And yet, these small shifts, when repeated, create the biggest changes you will ever experience. Think about how habits are formed. Not in one day, not in one powerful decision, but through small, repeated actions over time. The same is true for your mindset. You don't suddenly become confident, calm, or in control in one moment. You become it gradually by making small internal adjustments again and again until they become natural. The problem is, people underestimate small changes because they don't feel powerful in the beginning. Choosing to pause instead of reacting, choosing to take one slow breath, choosing to think slightly differently, it doesn't feel like much. It doesn't feel like it's going to change your life. So people go back to their old patterns, looking for something bigger, faster, more dramatic. And in doing that, they miss the real process of transformation. But here's the truth, your brain doesn't need something big to change. It needs something consistent. Every small shift you make sends a signal to your mind. This is the new direction. And your brain begins to adapt. Slowly at first, then more quickly, until that small shift becomes your new default. For example, imagine you're used to overthinking everything. Every situation, every decision, every conversation, you analyze it again and again. Now, instead of trying to completely stop overthinking overnight, you make a small shift. The next time it happens, you pause for a moment. You take a breath. You choose not to go deeper into the spiral. Just for a few seconds. That's it. It seems small, but it's not. Because in that moment, you've interrupted the old pattern. Do that again tomorrow. And again the next day. Over time, that pause becomes easier. That control becomes stronger. And what once felt automatic starts to loosen its grip. This is how change actually happens, not through force, but through repetition of small intentional shifts. Another important truth, small changes are sustainable. Big, dramatic changes often fail because they require too much energy, too much effort, too much pressure. But small shifts, they fit into your life naturally. They don't overwhelm you. And because of that, you're more likely to repeat them. And repetition is what creates lasting transformation. You also begin to notice something interesting. As these small shifts accumulate, your perspective starts to change. Situations that once triggered you don't affect you the same way. Thoughts that once felt overwhelming start to feel manageable. Your reactions become more controlled. Your energy becomes more stable. And suddenly, without even realizing it, your entire experience of life begins to feel different. And this is where the real power lies, not in one big moment, but in the accumulation of many small ones. Each shift builds on the last. Each improvement strengthens the next. Until eventually, you look back and realize you're not the same person anymore. Not because of one decision, but because of hundreds of small, consistent changes. So stop waiting for something massive to happen. Stop thinking you need to completely change everything at once. You don't. You just need to start small and stay consistent. Because those small shifts you're making today are quietly building the life you'll experience tomorrow. It feels like you're stuck, like no matter what you try, you end up in the same place. Same thoughts, same reactions, same results. And after a while, it starts to feel personal, like something is wrong with you, like you're the problem. But here's the truth you need to hear clearly and honestly: you are not stuck. You're conditioned. And that changes everything. Because being stuck sounds permanent. It sounds like there's no way out. But conditioning can be changed. It can be rewired. It can be replaced.